Thank you. Big round of applause there. It's so great to have our own band. Anyway, I am Cindy Darling. I am the mayor of Walnut Creek, and this is a great honor here today. One of the best things about being mayor is you get to run the Memorial Day commemoration. And each year we gather with friends, family, and our community to pay tribute to those who gave their lives serving their country. You know, for all Americans, Memorial Day should be the most important and solemn of our national holidays. A day to remember and honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice in the honor of our country. So to begin, please stand for the presentation of colors, singing of the national anthem and Pledge of Allegiance. Color Guard, present the colors. Thank you, and I ask Kevin Wilk to come forward and lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated now. I would like to ask Reverend Krista up here to join us in our invocation today. She serves at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and she's a strong voice in our community. Reverend Krista?
Let us pause in a spirit of reverence. Source of all life, known by many names beyond all naming. Together, today we gather to remember and to honor. We hold in our hearts the men and the women who have given their lives in service to this country, those who have made the ultimate sacrifice so that others might live in freedom and peace. May their courage inspire us. May their memory strengthen our resolve to be a people of justice, compassion, and hope. May those who grieve feel comfort, and may those who serve today feel the gratitude of a nation. As we stand together across traditions, backgrounds, and beliefs, may we be united in purpose to care for one another, to work for peace, and to never take lightly the cost of war and the gift of liberty. In the spirit of remembrance and hope, we say, Amen.
Thank you. Reverend Krista, thank you for your inspiring words and your work for our community. I'd also like to thank Bryn Sherwood from the U.S. Army and Arnell James from the U.S. Air Force for serving as our color guard today. And of course, the Walnut Creek Band, under the direction of Matthew Sandusky, and Mayor Pro Tem Kevin Wilk for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd also like to introduce the other members of our City Council. Matt Francois and Cindy Silva are here with me today, and along with our police chief, Jamie Knox, back there in the corner. I want to recognize other former mayors in the audience today. I see Luella Haskey down in front. She wouldn't miss this one for the world. But thank you to all of it. I see Kathy Hicks, all of you here in the audience today. If you are a former mayor, stand for a moment, twirl around. Yeah, and Gail's here too. Anyway. Also, I'd like to welcome Senator Tim Grayson, County Supervisor Ken Carlson here on the stage, along with Representative Mark DeSaulnier here. So let's give them a big I would like to also recognize all the veterans who are here in our office, or in our audience today. Anybody that's a veteran, please stand up so that we may honor you. For Americans, Memorial Day is one of our most solemn national holidays as we unite to honor those who gave their lives in service of our country. From the Revolutionary War to the present, the United States has been involved in 27 armed conflicts. The Civil War was the deadliest, with the loss of some 625,000 in combat and other deaths. More American losses from those than those from all the other wars and conflicts combined, and 100 times more than the number who died in the American Revolution. The casualty figures were so large that nearly every American was directly touched by the conflict. At first, families and friends of soldiers who lost their lives honored the sacrifices of the fallen by spending one day each year, decorating their graves. In time, entire communities began to come together on these Remembrance Days. What we now call Memorial Day was first observed on May 30th, 1868, when flowers were officially placed on the graves of more than 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers who were buried at Arlington National Cemetery. After World War I, where 100,000 military lost their lives, the holiday was changed to honor all Americans who had died fighting in our armed services. The numbers lost in war, 20,000, 100,000, 625,000, can be numbing. To me, the true story of Memorial Day is really measured by each loss, because each of these deaths was someone's sister, brother, father, son, leaving a hole in the world. In my family, the story of loss begins with my mom's family. She was one of 9 kids, 8 girls, 1 boy. With those numbers, you can just imagine how much those girls and my grandparents doted on my Uncle Grant. And yes, the girls forced him to play tea parties. They forced that boy to do things, but they loved him deeply. And as a young man, my uncle joined the Navy and served as a fighter pilot. After he married and started a family of his own, he elected to leave active duty and only fly with the reserve, using his expertise as an aeronautical engineer and flying as a test pilot. Somehow this seemed safer, but fate had other plans. On a routine mission in Florida, his Navy jet developed engine trouble and crashed in a field. Uncle Grant died that day because he delayed ejecting until he was no longer over a residential area, and by then it was too late. So he left a hole in the fabric of the world. I didn't think this was hard. Whenever my mom and sisters got together, they would tell the stories. They would pass on the stories of Uncle Grant, the brother they'd lost, the father who had died before he even got to meet his 9-day-old daughter. That is what Memorial Day means to me. So today marks Walnut Creek's 37th Memorial Day observance. It is a day for us to come together and pay our respects for all who made the ultimate sacrifice on our behalf. And today, it is especially an honor to recognize those from Walnut Creek who lost their lives while serving our country. 32 men our community lost in World War II, 11 in Korea, 17 in Vietnam, and 2 we recently lost in Iraq and Afghanistan. Memorial Day is our opportunity to remember and reflect and to stand with the families of those that we lost. I also wanted to recognize our recipient up here who was at D-Day, and Father Jake Larson, sorry, I should have written that one in my thing because I knew I'd forget it, carries on the stories of those who died that day in D-Day, and we're proud to have him here. I want to give a big round of applause. And now I wanted to invite Naomi Kimura up to present the governor's proclamation about Memorial Day.
Hello, I'm Mayumi Kimura, Deputy Secretary of Women Veterans with the California Department of Veteran Affairs, and it is an honor to be here with you today. I want to thank everyone who's here, the veterans, service members, families, caregivers, and survivors who have joined us on this Memorial Day as we come together to honor the selfless service and sacrifice of those who've been killed in action, those still missing in action, and those veterans who have come home and then passed away. We honor them. They are all heroes. And as the late John F. Kennedy said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. I know many of us here today will put that into practice and do everything in our power, even during our most challenging lives, to live a life that would make them proud, and one that is worthy of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. We show our sincere appreciation for all those who raised their hand to serve yet never made it home. We honor their memory by serving those who stood by them. I will now read the official proclamation from Governor Gavin Newsom. On Memorial Day, we remember those who laid down their lives in defense of our nation and our values. These brave individuals chose to serve something greater than themselves, and we are deeply indebted to them and their sacrifices. This solemn tradition began as Decoration Day in the wake of Civil War. Major General John A. Logan formalized the date in a Memorial Day order that asks that no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. Since then, even before Congress's formal establishment of Memorial Day as a National Day of Remembrance in 1971, the day has expanded to honor all those lost in our nation's wars. On this day of reflection, many Californians will participate in ceremonies at the state's 3 veteran cemeteries, 9 national veteran cemeteries, and hundreds of local cemeteries where the fallen are interred. Many of their names grace memorials throughout the country, from the Capitol Mall in Washington, D.C., to our own Capitol Park in Sacramento. Towns and cities nationwide have dedicated poignant memorials to their own sons and daughters lost in war, and they are forever memorialized in our hearts and minds. We pay tribute to them with our enduring gratitude and respect, never forgetting the sacrifice they made to protect the rights and freedoms we hold so dear. We honor them with our commitment to respecting and caring for the veterans who are still with us, their brothers and sisters in arms. In honor of our fallen heroes, I have ordered that flags be flown at half-staff on all state buildings and grounds throughout California. I also invite all Californians to participate in the National Moment of Remembrance at 3 p.m. on Memorial Day, a shared moment of silence recognizing the servicemen and women who put their country before all else. Now, therefore, I, Gavin Newsom, the Governor of the State of California, do hereby proclaim May 26, 2025 as Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you for that recognition. And now for our keynote address. As mayor, you get to put this together, and so I reached out to a good friend of mine who has served us well in Iraq and before that in Bosnia, and asked him who can we invite today, and he came up with a great one. Joe Tringe served in active duty U.S. Air Force and Air Force Reserve for 25 years. Over his career, he's been assigned to the Air Force Research Lab, the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, the Office of the Secretary of Defense, the Space and Missile Systems Center, Space Launch, Delta 30, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the Office of the Secretary of the Air Force. He's also taught at the National Defense University, and he currently serves as a reservist in the Office of Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Science, Technology, and Engineering at the Pentagon. As a civilian, Joe has had a 21-year career with the Lawrence Livermore National Lab as a technical leader where he continues to guide applied science and technology programs for defense and other applications. Joe lives here in Lafayette with his wife of 23 years and their 2 children. I want you to help me welcome Joe to the stage.
Good morning, and thank you for coming together this beautiful day in this peaceful place to remember those who've made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Thank you for your kind introduction, Mayor, and for including me in this important ceremony. I didn't ask why my friend and fellow veteran recommended me to speak today, but I think it's perhaps because I've been around for so long wearing this uniform. He knew from his own experience that when you serve in uniform and incapacity, you run into your share of heroes and regularly find yourself thinking about those who have made sacrifices. So I'll do my best today to honor them with some appropriate words. Today, I'm particularly honored to share the stage with one such hero, Jake Larson. A veteran of D-Day and other pitched battles in Europe during World War II, he is certainly more qualified than I am to speak on the subject of sacrifice. I won't attempt to speak about his experiences, but I recommend today after the ceremony that you look him up on social media. His life story is truly amazing and inspiring. In reading about Papa Jake, as I understand he is known online, I learned that he attended and was honored at the 75th and 80th anniversaries of D-Day in Normandy, France. I was actually present at these events as well, although I regret I was not able to see him and honor him there in person. In 2019, I took my older child to Normandy beaches for the 75th anniversary, and last year I visited with my younger child for the 80th. I think it's important for us to recognize and remember dates such as these which is why I made the effort to go and share these experiences with my children. This, of course, is why we are here together today. As Mayor Darling noted, Memorial Day was created after our nation's most costly conflict, the Civil War. The May observation date was chosen, actually, because this is the time of year when flowers bloom throughout our country. And it was thought to be fitting to recall the memories of the fallen with these gifts from nature. Today, surrounded as we are with such gifts, I'll briefly recall the memories of 3 individuals with whom all of us here today share some connection, either in time or space. Actually, only one of the 3 was wearing a military uniform at his time of death. However, in the next few minutes, I believe you'll understand why I've chosen them specifically today. First, I'll recall the memory of Jonas Parker. Jonas was 53, the same age I am now, when he was killed at the Battle of Lexington 250 years ago exactly, just this last April 19th, 1775. I happened to be in Lexington, Massachusetts with my daughter this March, about a month before that anniversary. We walked on the battle green on a rain-washed, chilly afternoon and saw the place where he fell. Jonas Parker was not wearing a uniform on April 19, 1775, because the United States military had not yet been created. In fact, of course, the United States themselves had not yet been created. Before the battle, Jonas was known around Lexington for his strength, and he was an excellent wrestler. He was also a woodworker. He owned cows and pigs and farmed 12 acres of land for a living. He left behind his wife and 10 children. Next, I'll recall the memory of U.S. Army Corporal Sean Langevin, a native of Walnut Creek and 2002 graduate of Ignacio Valley High School, just down the road from here. His name is in your programs. He was 23 when he was killed in Afghanistan in an ambush on November 9th, 2007, where he was serving during Operation Enduring Freedom. Corporal Langevin loved adventure and outdoor activities, whether it was snowboarding, skating, bungee jumping, or even skydiving. Growing up, he channeled his great energy into scouting. We have some scouts today with us here. And he achieved its highest honor as an Eagle Scout. He left behind a wife and daughter who was born 3 months after he was killed in Afghanistan. Finally, today, I'll recall the memory of California Highway Patrol Officer Kenyon Youngstrom, killed after being shot by a motorist following a routine traffic stop on September 4th, 2012, on Highway 680, a place you can almost see from here, or you could if there weren't buildings. Officer Youngstrom's name may be familiar to you because you lived during that time, or because Highway 680-24, the interchange, has been named in his honor, and it's marked that way on every entrance. One of 3 triplets, Officer Youngstrom was known for his positive outlook on any problem and his willingness to help others. He also loved animals. He kept dogs and cats at home, rabbits, guinea pigs, and a cockatiel. He baked and gardened and almost always whistled instead of singing. He was 37 years old when he died, and he left behind his wife and 4 young children. Officer Youngstrom was an Army Reserve veteran in addition to being a California Highway Patrol officer, so we might recall him today also for his military service. But I choose to recall him today for a very personal reason. On the sunny morning of Tuesday, September 4th, 2012, I had just dropped off my daughter at Merwood Elementary here in Walnut Creek. As I emerged onto the highway into heavy traffic, I was in the rightmost lane, approaching a Jeep and a California Highway Patrol car a little after 8 o'clock in the morning. And so it was that I was there when he was shot, and when his heroic partner ended that threat so that I and others who were there on that crowded highway that morning could return home to our families that night. So, what can we do to best honor the memories of these selfless men and thousands of others, men and women, whom I do not have time to recall by name in my brief remarks today. First, we can remember them as individuals, with aspirations, fears, like all of us. I've mentioned just a few personal details of these three brave souls to give you a small window into their personalities and those who loved them and whom they left behind. We do honor them by recalling the lives they lived in their families, who of course made such great sacrifices themselves. Memorials such as those we stand in or near today are appropriate places for this reflection, surrounded as we are by nature's gifts. But so are any personal spaces we happen to inhabit when we see evidence of the good they've created in the world, whether that's a sign on the highway or a song. I'll always think of Officer Youngstrom when I hear Somewhere Over the Rainbow, sung by Israel Kamakivole, since this song was played at his funeral. Second, and just as important, we can honor their memories by advancing the selfless ideals for which they gave their lives. Although they are separated by decades, centuries, or thousands of miles, those who we remember today shared the conviction that sometimes the good of the many must take precedence over the good of the individual. Although it is rare that some few must give all, nevertheless, it is an outcome that they all weighed and accepted when choosing their professions and their actions. This is perhaps too heavy a burden to contemplate fully without it becoming overpowering. However, I believe there are actions we can take every day to keep this ideal alive, strengthening our communities and our nation. For example, we can consider the greater good when deciding how we spend our time, our most precious resource, or when we speak with others with whom we may not agree. Bearing in mind how we treat others is a reflection of how we value our community. We gain an important insight to guide our actions. These actions, then, inspired by selfless values, are perhaps the greatest honor we can bestow to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice to sustain us as a community and as a nation. Finally, I believe it's fitting today to close with the words of Abraham Lincoln made in his first inaugural address on March 4th, 1861. The mystic chords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union. So today, let us recall those who have given their lives for our great nation, and all together, let us swell the chorus. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for sharing your thoughts and the memories of those brave individuals. And now we'll turn it back over to the band. When we get to the part where they are playing the different songs of the different services, make sure that you stand up if you served in that service or lost somebody in that service.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As our mayor mentioned, please stand when your service branch is played, or if you are the immediate family member of a deceased service member. United States Army. United States Marines. The U.S. Navy. The U.S. Air Force. U.S. Space Force. U.S. Coast Guard.
give them one more big round of applause for that one. And now I'd like to invite Reverend Krista back up to provide a blessing.
As we prepare to depart, may we carry us the weight and wonder of this day. May the memories of those we honored, such as Jonas Parker, Sean Langford, Kenyon Youngstrom, and the countless others who we have not named today, that are in our hearts, stir in us a deeper commitment to peace. May their sacrifice not only be remembered, but reflected on how we live, how we serve, and how we care for one another. May the Holy One, by whatever name we call, grant comfort to the grieving, strength to the weary, and courage to all who continue to work of building a more just and compassionate world. Go in peace, go in gratitude, and may we live in a way that honors the lives given for the sake of others. Amen.
Thank you. As we close our ceremony today, you are all invited across the street where you may pay tribute to Walnut Creek's own who gave their lives. Before we adjourn, I'd like to again thank the Walnut Creek Concert Band, Reverend Krista Fuegos from the St. Paul's and her Message of Peace, our color guard today from the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 8063, Colonel Joe Tringe for his great comments, and Papa Jake for being an inspiration to us all and continuing to honor the memory of those who were there that fateful day on the beach. And most importantly, to all of you who decided to spend time today here with some may just think of as a barbecue day or a day to go hang out, a day off at work for a picnic. It is truly an honor to have you here to pay tribute to those who gave everything on behalf of our wonderful nation. With that, color guard, retire the colors.
Holly, you want me to stay here? Get him.
you.